welcome to my channel on the best of fantasy. Today I am going to be going over a few of the SPFBO reads that I have been privileged to come across as a judge for SPFBO 9. Now, if you're not familiar with SPFBO, it is the self-published fantasy blog off a contest founded by Mark Lawrence, the author, in order to shed light on great self-published fantasy. And I want to emphasize right from the get-go that all of the books that I am going to be talking about here are very good books. 5 of them are not going to be semifinalists, and 1 of them is my second semifinalist. Now, I'm one of the judges. I had 30 books to sift through, and among those 30, I have decided that 5 of them are going to be my semifinalists. From those 5, I'm going to pick 1 finalist to put up against the other 9 finalists that the other judges for the contest are putting forward. So I am narrowing down, and I'm just, these were very great reads, all of them. And I think that either one of 2 things must have happened. 1, I just got all the great books in my batch, which is probably not likely. Or 2, there's just a lot of great self-published fantasy. If you have not read self-published fantasy yet, I highly encourage you to check out the wonderful books that people are writing. And it is my privilege to be shouting about all of these books. All 6 of these books that I'm talking about in this video today are great at what they are. And I will be just trying my best to describe the 5 that are not going to be semifinalists, but I do highly recommend them, especially for the right audience. And then I will be discussing in a little more depth the book that I have chosen as my second semifinalist. I've already picked 1 previously called A Gamble of Gods. The video is already out on that one. And this is my second one that I am going to be discussing and shouting about. So without further ado, let's get into this. The first book that I want to talk about, by the way, the semifinalist is the one I'm going to talk about last. So the first book that I'm going to be talking about that is not a semifinalist, but a wonderful read, is Nicholas Raven and the Wizard's Web, Volume 1. This is by Thomas Prestopnik, and I do apologize if I pronounce anybody's name incorrectly. Nicholas Raven and the Wizard's Web is for teens and adults. There are some definite classic fantasy vibes, which I absolutely love. There's including, by the way, lots of maps. Big thumbs up from me. I love my fantasy maps. And there are just some really lovely descriptions in this book. There's some very skilled writing in here. Also a protagonist who is forced to flee home and go on a very far journey. Wonderful fantasy trope that I personally love. There's wizardry and war and kidnapping and intrigue and love. So a very compelling read. The next book that I want to talk about is called Embrace of the Shade. This is book 1 of the Pantracia Chronicles by Amanda Muratoff and Kayla Hansen. Now, this book comes with a recommendation for 17 years and above because of the sexual content. And going into it, I actually was a little bit surprised that it wasn't quite as racy as I expected based on that warning. But it is definitely romantasy, a great combination of fantasy and romance. And it features magic and sword play, and also a wonderful pair of protagonists in Amari and the roguish Kin, who are caught up in schemes that put them in opposition, even though there is some very definite attraction going on there. So if you're into romance and fantasy, this is definitely one to give a try. The next book I want to talk about is Blood of Vengeance, a Battleborn Mage novel. This is by Angel Hayes. This is a fantasy that features gladiator combat. So you gladiator fans, check this out. There's some definite Roman kind of vibes in this one. And then you have, of course, the main character is a gladiator named Killian, or as the mobs call him, Killer. There's some magery in here. There are some fantasy races like goblins, not to mention some very skillfully described action and fighting. Some very gruesome, gritty stuff. It's a fast-paced book, but there is also great treatment of themes like friendship and family. The next book that I want to talk about is Fairywood Falls, an Appalachia fairy story by Stephen Paul Watson. This is the shortest book that I have read for SPFBO this year. And so if you're looking for a kind of whimsical, shorter story, this could be a great little read for you. It is set in eastern Kentucky and features a couple named Garrett and Naomi, who are retiring with their dog Growler. And they're looking for a nice idyllic life out in the country. But the woods near their home hold a mystery on wings. And of course, the title sort of kind of hints at what that is, Fairywood Falls. So yes, there are fairies. And these fairies, they are not helpless. You see that right from the prologue. So it's a really great little read, and I do recommend it if you're in the mood for one of those whimsical, shorter stories. And finally, I have Crown Prince, book 1 of the New Blood series. This is by W.D. Kilpack III. And in this book, you have a guardian of the Marik, and this is Nethar, and his first blood lineage gives him the sight in order to see the future and aid him in his role of protector. So he is very much tested as he strives to save the life of the newborn Crown Prince Vicari, hence the title of the book, Crown Prince. This book is full of pulse-pounding adventure, and it also features some great, extensive world building. Definitely a recommend from me. And now for the moment of truth, it is time for me to reveal the second semifinalist from my batch of wonderful self-published fantasy, and it is Bob the Wizard by M.V. Prindle. Now, this book opens with Bob leaping off, or maybe I should say dropping off the page, falling off the page, falling out of the page. It is kind of, at first I thought this was going to be kind of a grittier version of Dresden Files, maybe, with Bob being Harry's sort of foul-mouthed and disheveled cousin, even more disheveled than Harry. Then I thought, oh no, actually this is kind of Dances with Wolves, or maybe Avatar, the Avatar with the big blue people, not the Avatar with the cartoon. Avatar or Dances with Wolves, but in a fantasy world called Hub, amidst a science fiction backdrop called the Astroverse. So that sounds pretty cool, right? But even that doesn't sound cool enough, or crazy, or tempting enough. Well, it turned out to be even more than that. There are blue elves, sort of, dragons, fairies, lizard people, demon aliens, sort of, wizards, of course, with spirit-based magic, also kind of elemental magic, and futuristic technology, and much, much more. And this is a creative, really wonderful hodgepodge of quirkiness and also great storytelling. And as much as I admire the sheer creativity and the quirkiness of Bob the Wizard, there are two other things that are really, I feel, important to mention. One is that it is actually very well written. M.V. Prindle can write. He has a distinct and very readable writing voice. The story is paced very well with plenty of gruesome action, and this is kind of almost like, I would say, grimdark levels of just honesty in terms of what violence looks and feels like. But it also, I think it has some beautiful, important moments of character and relationship building. And also, importantly, some quirky humor sprinkled in. So it's got it all. And then there are the characters. And this may be the best recommendation of all when it comes to Bob the Wizard. There's an eclectic cast of characters here, and I enjoyed so many of them, but it's really Bob, I have to say, who is at the heart of the story. He's a chain-smoking, recovering alcoholic, and he is traumatized and scarred over right when we meet him from the beginning. His is in fact, a tale of vengeance. You can see that right from the back cover. But beneath those scars is a good heart. One that, despite the layers of grit all over Bob, that heart really does shine through. Bob is deeply flawed, but also, I would say, lovable as a character. And his relationships with other people are so endearing and character revealing, very skillfully done by M.V. Prindle. He's also, I just have to say, a beautifully handled protagonist, and I very much hope to be able to read of his further adventures. And so there you have it. There is my second semifinalist, Bob the Wizard. I highly recommend it if you're in the mood for something different, well-written, and with some really compelling characters. There's violence. There are some swear words. Bob has a bit of a potty mouth. And I enjoyed my entire time reading the book. So that's it for me for now. I will be talking about more of the semifinalists in the not so distant future. Until next time.